chairperson. What I have to say, I learned some secrets during the lunch break. And someone came up saying, Lori, her youngest daughter is Somerset. And also that we have a centurion of the experience, 100-year-old Isn't Speed, who stands. She is the grandmother of Senator Lee. Congratulations. And also we have a former youth speaker panelist in our midst, Destiny Taylor. Would you stand? And also we'd like to acknowledge the man. We cannot do without the man. Would you please stand? We have Donald Davis at the back. Brother Donald Davis.
Music gentlemen.
Yes. Any others that I might have missed? Oh, yes. Senator, how can I do that? Senator Means' husband, Roll Means. Please stand. I think that's all Sister Lynn, did you have something that you wanted to pass on later?
Later.
All right. Thank you so much, and thank you once again for coming. I'll now turn you over to Tamika.
Okay, thank you, Sister Betty. Lanier, the deputy chairperson, and I were talking a few minutes ago, and we are, if you see us up here grinning from ear to ear, it's because we are extremely happy with the turnout. I know she got the official thanks at the end of the program, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for taking time out. When we were discussing who's going to do what on the day, I immediately said, if I had a preference, I'd like to do the introduction. The committee probably didn't know why I preferred that. But it's specifically because Senator Ming and myself have had both a professional relationship as well as a personal relationship. So I'm going to read what she has presented, but there is a piece of it that I'm going to say from a personal perspective also. Senator Renee Ming is a born St. Georgian, that's no surprise at this point, who has strong family ties and roots in her community. She has been married to Roll for 20 years, and together they have 3 children. She is a member of the Richard Allen AME Church, St. George's, and credits her love of people and commitment to community service to her mother, Laverne Anderson. Senator Ming is employed by Butterfield Bank. Now this is where I ad-lib because I can. That's when Senator Ming and I's professional relationship began, when I worked at Butterfield. She's been there 18 years, and I would venture that those 18 years we grew closer and closer from a professional perspective. But I don't think I revealed to her or her husband that I unofficially met both of them when I crashed their wedding. I thought this would be a good forum so she would know this background. I have a lot of St. Georgian friends, even though I'm a staunch Somerset supporter. But it was at their, a lot of the St. George's fans got invited, and I said, I want to go. And Michelle said, come, Renee won't mind. And she would know that sounds just like Renee. So, I mean, like Michelle. So our relationship has been both on a professional perspective as well as a personal. And I was not surprised when she took up the banner for becoming a public servant, because Renee has always wanted to do the right thing, irrespective. So that's my little personal part that I wanted to add. Senator Ming, going back to Butterfield. Senator Ming is employed by Butterfield Bank as an assistant vice president. During her 18-year tenure, she has had several opportunities to grow and develop, and embraces every new challenge with zeal and enthusiasm. Senator Ming was educated in Bermuda and the United States, attending East End Primary School, the Berkeley Institute, the Bermuda College, and Howard University. As a firm believer that we all should give back to our communities if we are to see them thrive and survive, Senator Ming assists wherever and whenever she can, both within her immediate community and throughout Bermuda. Senator Ming's volunteerism spans many years and includes the African Diaspora Heritage Trail, the St. George's Cricket Club, the St. George's Corporation Activities Committee, the World Heritage Site Committee, the St. George's Preservation Authority, and the St. George's Parish Council. Senator Ming's political career started in 2009 when she became a common councillor for the Corporation of St. George's. In May 2012, she was elected to the post of alderman. In the November 2012 general election, she was a candidate for the Bermuda Progressive Labour Party for Constituency 2, St. George's West. Although unsuccessful, Senator Ming was appointed to the Senate chambers in December 2012 as PLP's spokesperson for health, seniors, education, and finance. Senator Ming brings a calm, yet firm voice to the Senate. She takes a measured approach to every piece of legislation, ensuring that every avenue is explored for the betterment of all Bermudians. So without further ado, let's put our hands together and welcome Senator Ming.
First of all, good afternoon. I almost feel like I should put up my hand right now and say, hi, I'm Renee, I'm from St. George's. Well, you know that. And you can see that I obviously have a love and a passion for my community and my country. Don't get me wrong, I love Bermuda just as much as I love St. George's, but in the Senate and for the Progressive Labour Party, I speak mostly for St. George's. So I'm just happy to have sat on probably just about every committee St. George's has to offer. But today I'm here to talk to you in terms of International Women's Day 2016. Another topic that to me is extremely important as a woman, and as we move forward thinking about how we as women make sure that our interests are represented. So, it is an honor and a privilege to stand before you today as a guest speaker to address the occasion of International Women's Day 2016 that has been themed #Pledge for Parity. And I'm going to say, make sure I emphasize that hashtag because someone today said to me, oh, it's just Pledge for Parity. And I said, well, actually, no, it's not, because in the site it says #Pledge for Parity. And I think that, when we start to think of hashtags, we're thinking even in terms of some young people and their involvement in it. Parity is described as equality as an amount, status, or character. So there's a huge meaning behind such a small word. First, I just want to thank the women of the Bermuda Public Services Union, BPSU, for inviting me to address your members. I would also like to thank my friends and family who continue to support me on this journey. I am moved by the invitation to fellowship with the women on such an important day and in this capacity. If you allow me just to reflect though for 1 minute, last Saturday past, I had the opportunity to attend the Bermuda Industrial Union's Women's Day event. And it was, their guest speaker was named Jennifer Meredith Smith. I got a tongue lashing for that later. But this audience was worth it. And who, if you don't know, or you'll know now, has been and will continue to be my mentor. And as usual, she addressed us eloquently and gave some of us younger people a little bit of history. And I'm always interested in learning about our past, so if I can't say anything, Dan, I say, you definitely schooled me in some areas. She did joke with me also and say, are you going to take some of that away for your speech on Tuesday? So I guess she'll see which parts I may or may not have taken. Now, although I've known about International Women's Day for many years, I can only recall participating in events twice prior to now. I promise you that that's not going to happen again. My pledge is to remain committed to our cause because this is about all of us. Okay? I'm grateful to the BPSU for encouraging me to read and research in depth International Women's Day. I have a better understanding of the history surrounding the day, and I pledge to promote International Women's Day and their platform going forward. It's fitting that I say I pledge to promote International Women's Day because that is actually what their theme is for this year. But in understanding what you're pledging for, sometimes you have to take that step back and understand some of the history. And I know that Ms. Bailey did a wonderful job earlier of giving some. And bear with me because mine may be some repetition, but I'll speed through it so you don't have to hear too much anything that's repetitious. But it's also important to understand that as when we move forward, that, and in the words of Robert Nesta Marley, see, I use everyone's middle name. If you know your history, then you know where you're coming from. Yes. Okay? And that's very important to me in my path and even in our own path. To know where we're going, we have to understand where we're coming from. I apologize because we don't even want to make the same mistakes we may have made. When I mentioned International Women's Day to some of my friends and even some of my family, they said, what's that? Some of my work colleagues, because sometimes you gauge the temperature, you want to see, okay, how much is known about International Women's Day? I can tell you that in my, with my colleagues, when I asked them, one knew. And I work in, you know where I work, and we are probably about 75% women. I didn't think we had any International Women's Day activities today, because we would have known about it. But it did definitely, my first pledge is to leave her today, and I'll be getting back to send a message on saying that going forward, I'd like to see that we do. Okay? And that's actually a pledge I made before I came here, because I was telling my boss where I was going, and he said, hey, did we do anything for that? And I'm looking at him like, you don't know, I definitely wouldn't know, right? So, yeah, but that's okay, right? Because that journey going to start with me today. And it's going to be that first message, and then, of course, it'll be a second message. And if anybody who knows me, it'll be a third and a fourth message about it. And even at a point, I'm sure I'll put my hand up and say, well, whatever you want to do, I'm happy enough to be involved. But the journey will have started with that one message, one step. Okay. Perhaps there is if we were unionize. Let me get back on track now. So, in 1908, women's oppression and inequality was prompting women to become vocal and campaign for change. Change capitalized her. Well, this culminated into a march of approximately 15,000 women in New York City demanding shorter work hours, better pay, and voting rights. 1909, the Socialist Party of America declared the first National Women's Day, NWD, across the United States of America, and it was celebrated on February 28th. 1910. In 1910, an international conference was held in Copenhagen. A woman named Clara Zetkin tabled the idea of an International Women's Day. She proposed a celebration every year on the same day, a Women's Day to press for women's demands. There were around 100 women who attended this conference, representing 17 different countries, who unanimously approved, thus creating the International Women's Day. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. Yes? 1911. Following on what happened in Copenhagen, International Women's Day was celebrated for the first time in Australia, Denmark, Germany, and Switzerland on March 19th. So the movement and awareness was growing. There were conferences and rallies attended by over 1 million men and women campaigning for better working conditions, better pay, voting rights, be trained to hold public office, and end discrimination. Sadly though, less than a week later, there was a fire in New York City it became known as the Triangle Fire, and 145 women were killed in this fire. It became known as the Triangle because the company was called Triangle Shirtwaist Limited, and they were a clothing store. It was highlighted because the poor working conditions and inadequate legislation were probably what assisted in these women dying in this fire. I mean, again, if you want to have a read of it, you can Google it. It's just called Triangle Fire. You'll see that the doors were locked. The fire equipment was outdated, rusted, and things like that. So it was of no use to them when they actually needed it. I can only imagine what these women would have gone through in this stage and what conditions they worked under. And I say that because I just think about it in my own workplace. Let that air conditioner not be working. Everybody's on "We must go home." These are oppressive conditions. And then when you read and you do some research into looking into what women like 100 years before us went through, I mean, we're blessed. If you can't have air conditioning, you can have a fan. Yeah? You can get out the room when you're ready. It's not chained and locked. I'm pretty sure the fire extinguisher has been tested on an annual and a yearly basis to ensure that when you need it, it works. So some of the things that it almost seems like luxury of the things that we enjoy, many that came before us did not have that benefit. This tragedy became the focus for future International Women's Days, and from there became the Bread and Roses campaign. Now, I'm not going to read the pen to you because I know all of you can read that later on at your leisure because it was inside your programs. But the Bread and Roses slogan originated from a speech given by Rose Schneiderman, and was a line in her speech that said, "The worker must have bread, but she must have roses too." And that slogan meant pairing bread and roses appealed for fair and dignified conditions for work. So let's move forward a little bit more because now we're in 1913, 1914. You're probably sitting there thinking, is she going to get 100 years from now? Not going to. On the eve of World War I, Russian women observed their International Women's Day. In 1913, the date for International Women's Day was transferred to March 8th and has remained the global date ever since. Then in 1914, women across Europe held rallies to campaign against the war and to express women's solidarity. The movement was growing. In 1917, on the last Sunday in February, Russian women began a strike for bread and peace in response to the death of over 2 million soldiers. They were also striking for their right to vote. And although their political leaders opposed the strike, it continued for 4 days until the Tsar granted them the right to vote. Mission accomplished. So now we're jumping forward, 1975. International Women's Day was celebrated by the United Nations for the first time in December 1977. The General Assembly proclaimed a United Nations Day for Women's Rights and International Peace. 1996. The United Nations commenced the adoption of an annual theme for 1996, celebrating past, planning for the future. This theme was followed by the 1997 theme of Women at the Peace Table. Themes have now become part of the International Women's Day. 2000, and the theme for that year was Women Uniting for Peace. International Women's Day and its activities had slowed down around the world. The world was evolving, and feminism wasn't a popular topic anymore. International Women's Day needed to be rejuvenated. It needed to be coming back out and needed to be put at the forefront. So there was urgent, important work to do. There was, and there still is, there still are battles to fight, and yet we still have to realize gender parity. 2001, the theme was Women and Peace, Women Managing Conflicts. The Global International Women's Day.com digital hub was launched to rejuvenate International Women's Day and its important platform to celebrate the achievements of women and to continue the call for gender parity. 2011, the theme, Equal Access to Education, Training, and Science and Technology, Pathway to Decent Work for Women. This was the 100-year celebration of International Women's Day, with events being held in Austria, Denmark, Germany, and Switzerland. In the United States, President Barack Obama proclaimed that March 2011 be Women's History Month. The then Secretary of State, now presidential candidate, Hillary Clinton, launched the 100 Women Initiative, empowering women and girls through international exchanges. 2016. So we got through 100 and something years pretty quick, right? And you can see that over the years, so as women and as this organization, they've been moving forward, or they've tried to move forward. Although there have been significant changes in attitudes towards women's equality, there is still much work to be done. At present, women aren't paid equally when compared to their male counterparts. We need to be better represented in boardrooms and politics. We need greater equality in legislative decisions and more focus on women as positive role models. We want to see equal numbers of women involved in the decision-making process for health, global women's education, and the violence against women. I just want to give you an example, though, of when we say boardroom. I explained to you where I work, and we have a board, the bank has its board, they make decisions. We are 75%, we have 75% of our employees are women, but we are 20 to 25% represented at the boardroom table. So that goes to show you that whilst we may be heavy in terms of our staff, me and women, we're not represented like that in our boardroom. It's safe to say also that maybe our interests are not being represented as well. Yeah? A great love of my public service is based on the firm belief that we need representation in politics, in the pulpit, in the boardroom, across the gamut. I will continue to fight right now in the Senate, but after the next election, and that can't be soon enough, in the House of Assembly, for better laws to advocate for women's interests. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't think that we haven't made any strides, because over the years we have. We've made some baby steps. and there are still some steps that we need to take. We must accept and realize, though, that there is more work to do. I stand before you today a female parliamentarian who knows and appreciates the struggle of those who came and fought for me to be able to enjoy this right so freely. My Bermuda today faces many challenges as we fight to stop the erosion of our rights as Bermudians. As women, I believe that we have a role to play in all aspects of ensuring that those women coming behind and those not born have a better life. When I think of what I'd like to say to Bermudian women, I would implore them to educate yourself on your interests and participate to ensure your interests are accomplished. So there's two things: educate, participate. That means be aware and stay informed of what's happening locally and globally as it relates to women and our interests. Participate. Join and become part of organizations that seek to make meaningful change. Looking at Bermuda's current parliamentary, the parliamentarians that we have today, we have 47 members in total, 36 members that sit in the House of Assembly, and 11 that sit in the Senate. Okay. Of those, women are represented at 38.8%. There are 8 women in the House of Assembly, and there are 6 women in the Senate, so 14 in total out of 47. And if you believe it or not, this is actually an increase over the past 3 years, because before 2 weeks ago, we were actually at 36%. But funny enough, with the appointment of the new Progressive Labour Party senator, we are now at 38.8%. What's also ironic with regards to the Senate is the appointment of the new senator meant that we now have 6 women who sit in the Senate. So that means that we had 54% female representation in the Senate. And I think that this was, we noted it in the Senate because it was actually really important. And then I went and I looked at some international news correspondence, and Bermuda was mentioned in there for that, because it's actually, the women are the majority in the Senate. Based on the 2010 Bermuda Census population figures, we have 30,858 males, and we have 33,379 females. So we have a population that has 52% women, and like I said, we are 39% represented in politics. In my opinion, we are underrepresented in politics. How do we fix this to ensure that our interests as women are represented? I'm not going to be answering for it. I want you to think about that, because it's either way to be put more women in there, or you lobby harder to make sure that your interests are represented. And sometimes that's a bit of soul searching that you have to do. You have to ask yourself, am I cut out for politics? Would I like to do that? Or do I make sure that my interest as a woman, or the women, is represented and it's known? Because it's not one thing to say you had this great, wonderful idea and you sat there and I said, but did you speak to me about it? Did you tell someone? All right, write it down on a piece of paper. The paper got all your information. You should now feel that you cannot approach any of the politicians. You should be able to leave, we are yours. And I say it in a loose way when I say yours. But we work for the people. And you should never feel that you can't approach us, come to us, anything. Woman power. What do I mean by that? Well, in June 2015, and you're all going to remember this, we saw possible legislation that may have made significant changes to mammograms for women. The women of Bermuda quickly organized and mobilized themselves and took a stand. The call was made, and women from across the island answered by hanging their intimate clothing on the grounds of cabinet. Everyone remembers that? Yes. Put your hand up if you hung something up. Okay. The voices of the women were clearly heard and government's position was changed. We must remember and believe that we are important and we have power, especially when we unite. The theme for this year is Pledge for Parity. And I repeat, parity is defined as equality as in an amount, status, or character. So the 2016 International Women's Day theme means we must pledge to push for equality in all areas. Let me repeat that. We must push for equality in all areas. The World Economic Forum predicted that we should see parity in 2133. I don't know how many of you are going to be here in 2133, but the chances are, I know I won't be here. Okay? So unless some divine happening goes on. Okay? In 2014, that parity date was 2095. So you can imagine from 2014 to 2015, as women, and talking about our parity dates, we regressed 38 years in 1 year. So when I say that we have work to do, we have serious work to do. We appear actually to be going backwards. Okay? And can we afford to go backwards? And are we willing to go backwards? So the question then becomes, how can we as women work together to shorten or reduce that parity date? It's a serious number when you stop and you think about it, right? In Bermuda, and I want to make sure I keep saying that because we do have some accomplishments, and because we're not going to beat ourselves up too much on that, but it is a significant thing when you think of it. In 1 year, we went backwards 38 years. So what they're telling us that we won't be somewhat considered equal to our male counterparts until 2133. But we've had 3 women premiers in Bermuda. Right? That's not nothing to, some countries have nothing like that. We have one that takes place today. I'm trying to make sure I word this correctly because I want to say about accomplishments, because when I think in terms of our accomplishments, we celebrate our accomplishments, but I'd like to see us get to the point where all accomplishments are the norm versus we have to celebrate every little thing that we do. You know, because we feel like, oh my gosh, we took that step, we've done something else. But hopefully we see it where it's, all right, that's okay, we've done that, now what next? Because it should be normal for us to achieve these things. It should be normal for us to have gender equality. It should be normal for us to be at the boardroom table. It should be normal for us to have equal representation to our population in politics. Now I know we have a long way to go, but these are still accomplishments and things that we should be striving for. It's funny because this morning as we were getting dressed and ready for work, my husband gave me this one, so I'm not going to say that either. He said that we should be striving for, you know that saying that says behind every successful man is a successful woman? Yeah? He said what we should be striving for as women is, besides every successful man is a strong, supportive, successful woman. Right? So we're not behind anymore. We're now right here, next to. I look at where I am today, even in terms of political career and stuff like that, and I say, well, I am where I'm at, but I'm not where I need to be. Okay? And I know the challenges that we face, and Tamika gave you some of my background in terms of 18 years being at the bank and stuff like that. But I know that where I am today is where I am, but it's not where I need to be. So even from a personal standpoint, there is still more work for me to do. And I'm hoping that what you can get from me today is that there's still more work for you to do. And Women's Day events, even such as this today, I'm happy to see the crowd that are here today. I'm happy that just about every seat has a woman or a man in it. But this is how it should look all the time. And maybe not just waiting until March 8th to celebrate ourselves as women, because we do that again in May as well. Okay? There's cards that I gave out. I gave them out and I said that makes sense to you when I delivered this speech. It's because the 2016 theme, and I said to you already, is called hashtag Pledge for Parity. And what I did was I gave you the site for the International Women's Day. And what you can do is you can actually go on there and make a pledge. Doesn't cost you anything, except you can go on, you can visit the site. They give you categories and say, do you pledge for gender parity? Do you pledge to help young women? It's 8 different things. And you can go in there, you can decide which one you would like to pledge. And I'm hopeful that each and every one of you in here today, even if you don't have access to a computer, you know someone who does, you show them the card and you say, no, just go into that site for me. And go on and put your name in there and say that you pledged in 2016. Because in 2017, I don't want to have to come, stand before you and someone else may be speaking to you at that time and they say, well, we're down to 2150 in terms of gender parity, because we do not, what we want to do is shorten that number. Okay? Maybe 2 or 3 years from now, we can come back here and say, well, now we're at 2088. Because that number will be shortened as we move, as we progress, as we pledge for parity. I borrowed this quote, and I read it. I'm going to get back to that after. But what I guess I want to know is, are you prepared through your pledge for parity to take a step to help achieve gender equality? And this means helping women and girls achieve their goals for gender-balanced relationship, respect. What is your pledge? What do you value your pledge to be? I shared my pledge with you. I borrowed this quote from the International Women's Day online page, and it says, each of us can be a leader within our own spheres of influence and commit to take pragmatic action to accelerate gender parity. That's actually quite deep, because what it's doing is asking each of us to commit for parity. Sort of goes quiet now when you have to stop and really think about, because it does, and I know in my preparation for this, I did some serious soul searching, because you ask yourself, well, what have I done today? And has it been adequate? Was it sufficient? But like I said to you, don't beat yourselves up even if it wasn't, because from today you can make that pledge and you can be the difference that we want to see. And what we'd like to see is a reduction in that rate. I'm hoping, like I said to you, 3 years from now, I'll take 10 years knocked off even, but it just means that we're doing something, we're on the right track, and we're bringing that number down. In closing, let me stress this. Each and every one of us has a role to play. Are you prepared to stand up and participate? And I'm just going to leave you with these words. Thank you. So we have a question?
Yeah. Cognizant of the time, so if there are any pressing questions that you need to ask them to me, if not, we just move to anything.
I can't believe you have no questions.
Thank you, Senator. Me. I was a few years ago, several years ago.
Yeah.
I was at a political forum in Washington, D.C. The honorees were Malcolm X's wife, Medgar Evers' wife, and Martin Luther King's wife. And some of the things that you're speaking about was spoken about there. But what I liked about it was that they gave out a cup. And in that, on that cup said that a woman's place in the house is a woman's hand. So I'm really going to say to you that you've put a walk on, and I'm going to put 1 step forward, 2 steps backwards. And you ask the question, how can we do it? But those males that are in the political sphere,
Yes.
they're the ones that have to do it. When a woman puts herself forward, you either put her in a safe seat or she's not going to win anyway. And I can recall when Alfred Gregg wanted to put me in the safe seat, I said, no, I want to be on Western Stars. And But the second time, I won. But I said to Mr. Wade, I'm not going to be like Dean Jennifer Smith. I did, what, was 6 times Dean? Yes, 6 times. It's both those. And so a lot of women don't want to put themselves forward for similar things like that for family and so forth. So when you're in that room, that's how you possibly have to speak up. Put women in safe seats and we'll have more women. Don't take them out. Where's one? They took us out.
Well, I probably didn't take, probably should have shared that advice with me some years ago, because St. George's is definitely not a safe seat. But I tend to make it my seat.
Why is that really so much a question? I have to say thank you, Senator my cousin. But I do want to continue to encourage you and say thank you, because your speech today has made me realize you said something in there like we all have a part to play. Be it in our families, in our homes, in our community, even in the world as a whole, right? Your speech today has made me want to put one step forward to what I have been assigned to do. And to add to that, I pray, my prayer, my pledge, is that I don't sit in this information, but I actually take the step to find out, to educate myself, and to participate. So I just want to say thank you.
Okay, you're in 1, 2, 3, going.
All right.
Thank you again, everyone.
I'm going to call the Deputy Chair to give the thanks and also to make the presentation.
Good afternoon. Just bear with me. I'm not 100%, but I worked hard to be here today. Good afternoon to BPSU executive, past and present, members, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's my privilege to give the vote of thanks on this occasion, International Women's Day 2016. On behalf of BPSU Women's Committee, I would like to give a very hearty vote of thanks to Senator Renee for her continuous support to the community at large, women's rights and equality, and especially to the BPSU Women's Committee today. In addition,
Sorry, we couldn't get into the flow.
In addition, the BPSU Women's Committee would like to thank Scott, Sister Pamela Wade, Sister Andra Todd, and Custodian Sharon Jennings for assisting with the toaster and other arrangements to help to make this day successful. The BPSU Women's Committee was delight providing the wonderful lunch. We would also like to thank the Women's Committee members, Sister Tamika, Leah Trott, Sister Jakia Bird, and Sister Lisa Christopher, who are unable to be with us today. The advisor to the BPSU Women's Committee, Sister Lisa Bailey, who has helped and former members, Sister Lynn Wade and Sister Jacqueline Basin, for their help, which has made this an awesome vacation. The BPSU Women's Committee would like to thank Sister Rakisha Vance and set the atmosphere. Thank everyone for coming out and taking time out of their busy schedules to spend International Women's Day with us today. We look forward to seeing you again next year, and thanks again for supporting International 16 Tax for Parity, Women Empower Women. Thank you.